Hello, Romie. See, that's what happens when you watch that crazy show. Romie Mojo here. Please like, comment, subscribe. Look. When I tell you that that show, Unknown Caller, on Netflix, I keep calling it a show, but it's like, what is it? It's not a docu-series. It's like a real life sociology study of what happens when a delusional, spoiler alert, delusional parent, specifically a delusional mom, goes and has an asphyxiation with her daughter and her daughter's boyfriend. When I tell you the nerve of that mom to get on that stage, well, when I say stage, sit in that chair, she loves attention. That's why I call the chair a stage. Get on that stage and go and make us feel like, well, when I first saw her, I felt bad. I said, this family has to be going through it because she looked rough. She looked rough. And so I thought, wow, this whole cyberbullying, this whole threatening stuff through text, they're really going through it for over a year. Now, mind you, I will change that number in 2 seconds and call it a day. Now, because we find out, spoiler alert, that it was Lauryn's mother who was sending the text the entire time to her, and those texts were crazy. I'm thinking, because it felt like an adult trying to appear like they were a kid, going and saying sexual stuff and trying to intimidate and really poke at her daughter. But when you think about it, because it was the mom, then how could they just go and change the numbers? Because the mom would have had the new number, right? And maybe it would have at least whittled down, like, wait a minute, if only like 4 people have the number or 6 people have the number, then we have a bigger problem on our hands. A bigger problem on our hands, even though that same mom, what was her name? Kendall, she had the nerve to go and act like, oh, I felt like the school wasn't doing enough. Now, the school only has a certain amount of resources, especially in that small town. Every time they kept bringing in someone else to try and help the situation, we then realized that, oh, wait a minute, why didn't we just go to the big dogs? But I get it. They're in a small town. How are they supposed to have access to a person in FBI who can seemingly make a couple of calls and get this whole thing figured out? My feelings are hurt because the mom is in IT. So you're telling me that the mom couldn't figure out, oh, if we can get someone to go and trace the number attached to the fake randomizer. But of course that didn't happen because it was her. And shout out to the dad, because the dad was not playing. The dad already knew something was up with her. Once he found out, oh, she wasn't working, that's why we keep losing the houses. She was supposed to have 2 jobs. Now, we're not going to act like the dad wasn't guilty of being super naive, because he clearly was extremely naive. Because there was no way that if I'm handing someone all this money and things are falling by the wayside and they're like, oh no, I got it. No, you don't. You actually don't, which means I have to step in because you can't be trusted. That's how I handle things. That's how I think. But I get it. He probably comes from the mentality of, okay, she's saying she's going to take care of home. So if I hand her the money, take care of the bills, then that's what's going to happen. I'm going to go out and do what I need to do and support my family. I get that. But he still had some accountability. But he made up on brownie points when he said to the cops, you got to take her out of here. And, oh, I'm going to call your parents, as in his wife. And she didn't want to call her parents, but he made sure to do that. He made sure that they were separated from that moment so that there weren't any issues, so that he didn't tear her ass up in that house when the cops were gone. Because I don't care what anyone says. No, we're not promoting that type of violence. But when it comes to your child, sorry, things change. So again, we don't promote that, but if I'm hearing my daughter was being bullied, being told to go and unalive herself in text, being told that she was clearly has like an eating disorder, and saying all these crazy sexual things to her in text, harassing her boyfriend. Oh no, 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 no. Something's gonna happen to the wife. Like, that's just what's gonna happen. Sorry. And to make matters weirder, when towards the end of the documentary, and I wish that they focused on this sooner, but they couldn't because the whole punchline was that the mom did it, and the mom wanted sympathy and all this stuff. And I'm like, yo, you did this. Yeah, but be thankful that they didn't go and increase the charges, because you were going and harassing, intimidating, spoofing. The list goes on. Child endangerment. Like, you should have had years in jail. I don't care whose mother you are. You should have had years in jail, because they could have self-harmed themselves. They could have unalived themselves. Like, thank God these kids weren't some other kids, because the other kids would have done it, and they would have done it sooner. Like, what? And her saying, oh, I wasn't afraid of my daughter. Jail, prison. I keep saying jail, prison, years, minimum. No exceptions. And I get it. Mental illness is real. And absolutely 100% believe that that's what's going on here, because for her to say, oh no, someone was actually spoofing them. Who? We don't know. But someone was actually spoofing the kids and harassing the kids originally. But I took over from there because I wanted to protect my daughter, because I was assaulted, and this was like my way of protecting her from her boyfriend that apparently you had such an asphyxiation on that you personally were reaching out to him and staying in touch and complimenting him and doing all of these things. And not at the behest of your daughter, by the way, but just on your own. Let's be clear. You were enamored with your daughter's boyfriend, and you were secretly jealous that she had him and you didn't. You were tired of your husband. You weren't happy. And so then you found a way to go and poke at your daughter. And the fact that once they broke up, you went and started to harass his cousin. You started to harass other girls that he was associated with, even just like on a friend or colleague standpoint. And then the potential girlfriend a couple of towns down, you went and started to harass that family too. You were obsessed. I wanted more prison time for you. You going and being able to be in contact with your daughter, because when you establish this codependency with your daughter, that emotionally, instead of her realizing, I need to separate from my mom for a bit and figure out what's going on here, she's at a very vulnerable point in her life and she needs her mother. And so it's just so messed up. I'm glad that the father has sole custody. I hope that Lauryn is in therapy. Hell, I hope her mother is in therapy. That should have been part of the mandatory stuff when it comes to her sentencing, because, again, if we're going to go and reduce her charges due to mental illness, then therapy needs to be a bare minimum requirement. Oh, and when it comes to the other family, we call it the bully family. Look, no one is saying that it was right that your daughter was being blamed. And just on the off chance that the mother was telling the truth, that she wasn't doing the texting the whole time, then it does make me wonder who started it. So the bully family, and I call them the bully family because they have that alpha type of energy where they feel like, well, if you're not tough and you're not strong, then we're going to run all over you. That was essentially the vibe that they gave. And I was so tired of them. And then for them to go and flip it and be like, oh, well, it couldn't have just been the mother. It couldn't possibly have just been the mother. Is it because you feel like there's no way that a woman could come up with all of that and successfully pull it off on her own? Was it that? Or was it really because you just despised that family at this point and you just wanted to go and take them all down? Is that what it is? Or you felt like, wow, the family really was going to just let the mom take the rap for this and they just call it a day? That's how you really feel? That's how you really feel? Okay. All right. You're still mad. Again, you actually have the right to be mad, but the energy that your family gives off, no wonder why people look at y'all a certain way. Who else do I feel like was on some BS during this whole thing? Like I said, the school's being played from the start, so I'm not even gonna go at them like that. Of course, there could have been different ways of them for them to handle it, but the parents were also not blocking the number, or at least oh, we want to figure this out. We want to find this out. That makes sense, but I'm not going to lose sleep for over a year when I have options. I'm not going to wonder at night if I go to sleep if my child is going to be awake or there. The picture showing that someone was clearly at the house during the Christmas party, I'm like, it, justice for the kids, because I don't feel like they got it enough. Justice for all the families affected, including the bully family, because it still wasn't right that their daughter was being accused when all of this was because of the mother. So that's the one thing I will agree with them on. But aside from all that, that mom getting on the show again, acting like, oh, it was just so terrible. And then it's like, oh, it was me. It was me. And for people wondering why Lauryn didn't respond the way that they thought she would, you have to look at it this. And Owen, I feel bad because you know he's going to continue to have anger issues for a while. So mandatory therapy for him as well. But the cops were kind of talking in code when they first came to confront her mother. So I don't know if it really sunk in until her dad came in and then she was overhearing everything. And the mom really possibly committing insurance fraud. There's so many levels to this. Let me know what you think. I'm just rambling because I just wanted to get my thoughts out because I was like, prison, prison, prison. And big up the detective that finally was able to go and get this all cleared up in a matter of no time. Like, so let me know what you think. Again, name's Romie Mojo. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time.